Hello there, Sir from 17 once again, introducing you to my Max Payne 3 hardcore difficulty video walkthrough. This is chapter 4 and this is Anyone Can Buy Me a Drink. So this is a flashback level, and this is pretty much the closest this game gets to the aesthetic and maybe the mood or theme, should I say, of the first game, or the first two games for that matter, because they were set in New York, it was always night, and it was generally snowing, and you were running around the streets, and it had that real, just crime noir feel to it, and this is kind of harping onto that, but putting its own little spin on it. And it's a really cool level, actually. I like this one a lot. But it's like everyone that's followed, and everyone previous, should I say, it's as difficult as you make it, because this is one of those games that if you manage the situations well, you're going to do okay, but in a matter of milliseconds you can make a mistake and everything can go to hell quicker than you realised it could. And sometimes there's not a lot you can do, especially when the game enjoys spawning enemies extremely close to you, and just a couple of little cheap tactics that it does throw at you. And it can feel like, it's a little bit too much bullshit at times, but as long as you know what you're doing, as long as you know what's coming, and as long as you take it slow, you should be okay. But when you come into this room here, there's going to be a stacks of dudes in front of you. And you don't really want to do this, but if you want to be Max Payne, you kind of have to. But you pray to God you get up fast enough, because there's another 2 to 3 guys in the left of me in that little kitchenette area. But I see that guy there. The bar is decent cover, but those guys to your left are going to come and they might be able to hit your body. And it's a little bit annoying how accurate some of the enemies can be at times. But, just take your time, play patiently, use your ears because they do help, and just keep your eyes open for painkillers. Because towards the end of this game, the painkillers are going to be what makes the game difficult. If you have a stock of painkillers, if you've got lucky and nobody's, clipped you like that guy just did and used your supply, you're probably not going to have too much of an issue with some encounters. But if your painkillers are for whatever reason low, that's when the game gets tough. But the difficulty is dynamic. And watch this for anticlimactic. Oh yeah, 360 mid-air through the window. But the game's difficulty is dynamic, and it's dynamic in the painkillers. And I've been reading about it, so I didn't know too much. And where it is dynamic is obviously, depending on how well you're doing, will depend on how many painkillers the game puts in the world. And I think it's something along the lines of, if you have more than 2 painkillers, you're probably not going to see too many more popping up, and if you do, they're kind of the equivalent of a rare drop. But if you drop below that number, then it starts to give you them a little bit more frequently. I'm not 100% up on this knowledge, because I've not read into the mechanics, because the game's only been out 2 days in my country and I've been too busy playing it. But just know, if you're finding painkillers in places that aren't on my game, it's probably just to do with your performance. So just bear that in mind, because that is one thing that will constantly shift. Secondly to this, when you die, it actually affects your painkillers. And I didn't know this until I read something last night. And how the difficulty is dealt with is, I think if you die 5 times on any given checkpoint, the game will give you a painkiller. And if you die another 5 times, I think it gives you another painkiller, but it will only give you them if you have so many. So once again, if you have, I think, more than 2, the game's probably not going to give you anything. But it's kind of, trying to stop you from getting yourself into a corner that you can't get out of, because we've all been on that level where the checkpoint screws you and you're that's bad English, you're really close to the end of the level, but the checkpoint screwed you so much you have to restart the entire thing just to get past, because you've put yourself into an unwinnable situation. And a lot of games have this, that's just, the nature of a checkpoint. But it's nice to see a mechanic that I don't think I've really seen before being utilised in a way that's subtle but useful. So that's kind of cool. But be careful of these guys with the laser sights on the roofs. If you kill them all, you will get an achievement, which is kind of nice. And if you pick up a weapon with a laser sight or a torch on it, if you press the back button or select if you're playing PlayStation, it'll turn it off. I didn't know this until somebody told me, and I looked at the instruction booklet and still didn't see anything to do with it. But the instruction manual for this game, I don't know if any of you have scoped it out. I generally read stuff like that when I'm in the bath and things.
A chance to make a difference.
And I was reading through this one, and every so often there's words in the manual that I'm just kind of like, what the fuck is this even supposed to mean? And there's on the multiplayer section of the manual, it mentions that you can only have 5 abilities, I think, at one time on your character, or something along those lines. But it doesn't put 5, it puts fünf. And I see 2 F's in a word and an umlaut, and you've just got to know it's German. So it's like, why is that in the English section when there's other languages on the thing? It just seems really strange to have that. And this is me getting stuck in the graphics. I don't know how I managed to do it, but I had to dive out of it because it wouldn't let me. And then I gave a quick shot for being a douchebag, being a rapey piece of geometry. And then I continue onwards. And these rooftops are pretty interesting because every time you move between rooftops, it's going to spawn dudes, and they're going to come from different areas. And Jesus Christ, a pen! I forgot to turn my notifications off. How dare you! How dare you ruin this guide, Pen? You know who you are, son. Oh, that's very amateurish of me, but I think I turn it off later, so I do apologise about that, guys. I forget. I'm really bad. But there's a cheeky spot on this roof. If you come over to this fence, you can shoot through the fence, but the enemies don't seem to want to do the same to you. And I'm not going to question it. I'm just going to enjoy the benefit of shooting dudes that can't shoot me. So clean them up from here before you move onwards, and it's definitely going to help you out. But yeah, there's interesting stuff in this game that I just don't know how I can get behind on some of it. Like, oh, there he is again. Playing Max Payne 3 on my Max Payne 3 guide. Thank you very much, sir. How dare you? Like, there's an achievement on this game that's worth 10G, and it's called New York Minute Hardcore or something along those lines. And it's for beating the New York Minute game on hardcore difficulty, I assume. And I've read into what it means to do this, and people are gonna... completionists are gonna hate it. Because if you played Dead Space 2, and you know what hardcore difficulty did, you've got a good idea of what it does to that game mode. If you die at any point in the game, you go back to the start. And I hate that so much. And don't get me wrong, I'm probably going to try and do it, because I do love this game, I do love Max Payne, and I do like, you know, doing silly, crazy challenges, but taking the checkpoints out is something I hate. And anybody that's been with me for a while on my channel will know I bitch more about checkpoints than I do latency, because it's just one of those things that has such a profound effect on a game, and developers seem to think removing them invokes challenge, when all it does is, you know, produce frustration. Because a game can be challenging and be filled with checkpoints, it just has to be balanced correctly, and not a lot of games these days are. And for the most, this game is pretty good at that. There's a couple checkpoints that are going to make you want to, you know, punch Remedy for giving Rockstar the title, but I said giving, there's probably a whole bunch of office politics there, because it was owned by and published by Rockstar themselves. Take-Two had nothing to do with this, because Take-Two took a massive hit. And I found out the other day as well that Remedy announced Max Payne 3 immediately after Max Payne 2, but because Take-Two went into, you know, like, kind of a bit of a bust after the release, because Max Payne 2 did not sell as well as intended, that they cancelled it because financially it just wasn't a solution for them at that moment in time. So that kind of sucks, but at the same time we wouldn't have got this game, and this game is very different to what Remedy's Max Payne would have been. But who knows, maybe there will be a collaboration in the future, maybe Remedy will have another crack at it. Never say never, as Sean Connery did, and then did, but this section here is kind of bullshitty. I didn't like this moment on hardcore. Do you see that opening there? I thought a guy was going to flank me, but he doesn't, because I could see a gunshot shooting through the window, and I think it was just my imagination. But you can go through that back area and flank this room, but it doesn't give you any more of an advantage than this area right here does, because using the cover trick and the wall trick, you can pepper dudes, but you've got to be so careful, because I don't know what it is, I don't know how the damage is calculated, but when you get hit with certain weapons, it immediately takes you to the death screen where you use a painkiller to stay alive. And shotguns, obviously. The range on the shotguns is debatable, because the range is ridiculous, but there's times when I've been hit by pistols and it's done the same thing, so I don't know if it's certain pistols, if they hit me in the head, I'm not too sure, but there are moments where you really get screwed. Like, right now, I'm trying to edge my way around this piece of cover, and Max keeps putting his gun away. Look at that. I didn't even see that guy, but he took me out. What's he using? Can we see? I couldn't see then. He fell too quickly. Probably a shotgun, because it was that swift. Once again, be careful of Passos. If you shoot him here, he'll die and you'll fail. That's kind of gay as well. But, like, one bullet kills, and the painkiller revive function, where if you've got a stock of painkillers when you do get, you know, a shot that would have killed you, is a great idea. But I have a whole bunch of captured gameplay which proves that the mechanic itself needed to be better. And I'm actually going to put up a little quick funny skit where I get shot through glass you can't shoot through, and then I'm trying to return fire to kill the guy who killed me, and he stood there smiling as I shoot bulletproof glass. Right on the last level as well. And if that had been on a New York minute hardcore run, I'd have probably have snapped the disc and used it to murder my family. But thanks for watching, guys, and you take care now.